Live, another amazing show on Saturday. With me today in the show is Tom Badley, currency designer. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. I want to ask you to introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them how you got involved with crypto and NFT and also what Bitcoin and crypto mean to you, because you're a currency designer. So I imagine that it means something very special to you.
Yeah, okay, that's a lot. Who am I? How did I get involved in crypto? How did I get involved in crypto art? Okay, so I started out as I guess an artist, and went to art school, did that whole deal, and somewhere along the journey I got involved in banknote design, which is something I was always interested in from the earliest age, really. But I went into it professionally, and then I came out of that and then into NFTs. So I've had this kind of art, design, crypto art journey. And how I got involved in Bitcoin was I heard about Bitcoin in 2010. It was pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
And by 2011, I bought my first Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that I still have the Bitcoin that I bought.
No. I know how that goes.
Yeah. So, and ironically, it was a alumni from the art school that I went to who actually told me how to buy Bitcoin. Because back then, it wasn't so clear. You had to like sign up to Bitstamp or whatever, and then it was like it really wasn't clear. So yeah, 2011, and obviously a lot happened between 2011 and when I got involved in NFTs in 2019. Saw all the cycles, the bulls, the bears, and yeah. So when it came to crypto art on the blockchain, I took all my knowledge from banknote design and I committed that to the blockchain, and I've sort of been doing that ever since. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you're very early. I guess you're so early because you were already sort of focused on money and what money means, and that's why you got attracted to Bitcoin and crypto so early, especially Bitcoin, of course, because crypto didn't even exist.
Yeah, I think so. When I graduated from art school, I almost immediately forgot about art. It was almost like the 4 years at art school was just like this dream, and then the moment that I graduated, I started getting really interested in money and the economy, and that led on to looking at alternatives. This is my website. You can see it's my latest stuff. Bitcoin was just one of those alternatives, but I literally got involved the moment that I graduated, and the thing that kickstarted it really was the crash of 2008, which is my graduation year. So I left art school. Like most people who finish up university or art school, they're like, okay, what now? And then everything was crashing. And at the same time, I was having I had a few opportunities with showing my art in galleries. I remember that kind of like first few years out of art school. But I was really looking at money very closely, and what is money, and asking those questions for the first time. So yeah.
So now let's go into it. What does money mean to you? And I mean, why did you get so fascinated with banknotes and the design of that?
Well, banknote design is something I was always interested in. And why? I don't know. Because there's something that looks different and pretty and valuable. And it's not immediately obvious why they look valuable. But yeah, and that they say something about is valuable. You know, everything that's on a banknote is there for a reason. It doesn't. There's nothing. There are no accidents on a banknote. So they're very rigorously designed. They're printed meticulously, and so there's this whole process behind them. They're quite unique in our world, and that in itself is a fascinating part of product design and print technology. And they're also very artistic. You know, everything that is on a banknote is sort of has been refined and honed to make it look valuable and to make it hard to copy. So this is what something looks like printed that is very, very difficult. And then that's a whole other conversation as well, because then you have a way of designing that is specifically so that someone else can't copy it. Most art is quite generic, the way it's made. Like a painter or a sculptor, you can learn all these skills from someone else. Of course, you can learn bank design, but it's all proprietary knowledge that you can only really learn in the industry. You can't just like hit a printer and expect to make money. So yeah, most art is like pretty much generically made, and banknote design in an art realm, which is the kind of thing that I've been involved in the last few years, it takes all that proprietary knowledge in it, and it expands on it, I guess, into different formats. More closely, why not?
And of course, banknotes used to be sort of redeemable for gold, so that they would have been tied to real value. And since then, we had like the fiat standard, which sort of let go of that whole thing with Nixon. Do you also, because you mentioned in one of your videos that I retweeted that crypto is in search for the symbolism or a visual heritage that it doesn't have yet, and you seem to find it in banknotes and of course a lot of different places. Can you sort of expand on that idea a little bit, and also how that sort of ties into the pictures and the symbols and the figures on banknotes?
Well, banknotes is really interesting because, as I say, nothing on there is accidental, and it's all it's like a communication of a currency of a country. So everything there is very respectful of a country's symbolism, and in culture we've lost that a little bit. So the examples that I think of is how people have tattoos in languages that they can't necessarily speak, or people wear T-shirts with the names of like a profession, like security. They're not a security guard, but it's something cool to wear, or whatever. So symbols have kind of lost their meaning a little bit in our culture, and the banknote is kind of an outlier because it's very respectful of symbols. And it turns out anything that we need to be valuable, actually, like money, which is the limit on life itself, it requires us to have this huge respect for symbolism. And the thing that I find really interesting about crypto is that it's a new form of money, but in order for it to be trusted between people, it has to lean on things that we already find value in, like previous forms of money, coins, banknotes. So how crypto has presented itself is through using things that we already find valuable, and through latching onto symbols that we already find valuable, the kind of symbols that we find on money. So it's really interesting that Bitcoin and all cryptocurrency is non-physical, but the way that it's presented in the media is like these physical coins.
Yeah, gold.
So it has nothing to do with gold, but we require something still to have this sort of this physicality to it, and so we lend that physicality to cryptocurrency. And yeah, I guess my art plays with that. It's it's using that same design process, but it's in a digital realm. So yeah.
And talking about gold and Bitcoin, I just heard that Peter Schiff is finally into the Bitcoin realm. So
Yeah.
that's a big scoop. So this is also sort of ties into your book, Art and Money, that we're sort of already sort of touching on. It's very interesting what you say also with crypto searching and then sort of going to those national symbols, which are very respectful, because Bitcoin and crypto are very disrespectful actually, sort of like a counterculture, very sort of taking fun of sort of national symbols actually, so sort of having fun with them. So how do you see that interplay between sort of the sort of counterculture that Bitcoin and crypto represent, and how they play with very respectful national symbols that are sort of on banknotes?
Well, actually, I think that crypto has huge respect for some symbols, like the early pioneers of crypto, like the Bitcoin symbol itself. These are part of the Bitcoin religion. These are sacred symbols in the Bitcoin realm. So there is this massive respect for symbols. I don't think Bitcoin is respectful of the fiat system necessarily, because it's aligned against it. Going back to Peter Schiff, man, I saw the ordinals that he minted. What was the deal with that? Was that something to do with gold, or?
Yeah, I haven't seen it because it was an interview with Pompliano. I'll also link it down below in the YouTube video. And I saw like the first 5 minutes because I was at work, but I was really blown away because Peter Schiff was actually talking about using, I guess, the security of Bitcoin through ordinals to link vouchers of some sort as certificates of authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what he's linking, but I imagine that it has something to do with gold. But then it would be very ironic that he's using the Bitcoin standard to authenticate anything related to gold in order to verify its authenticity, right? So that would be kind of ironic. So I'm really curious. I want to see the whole interview, but he seems to be well. If he accepts that part of Bitcoin, then he accepts the whole deal of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I thought I saw the ordinal itself. I saw the design. Looks terrible. Looks terrible.
Yeah,
Something.
very clunky.
There is so much potential to make some good art. Damn. I mean, yeah, it just the basic thing that I work from is at least make it look good. If it was good art, then I would have like full respect. But man, because gold has all this provenance, all this heritage, all this power to it, and yeah, at least make good art about gold. There's so much potential to go, so many things to explore visually with gold, but yeah, it looked really bad.
But that's also, I guess. Oh, go on. Sorry.
It's low barrier to entry, right? So you got a lot of stuff that looks bad.
Yeah, that's like the first come first serve, right? And the lower the entry, the earlier you are to mint those ordinals and be the first.
Right.
So in that sense, it's like literally a gold rush that is sort of happening. But you also said something very interesting about Bitcoin. Once it got started, it used certain symbols that are sort of sacred to it or holy. Could you sort of expand on those symbols that you were referencing?
So you've got the Satoshi mask, the anonymous mask. That's a pretty sacred symbol. You've got the Genesis block, the block hash with the encoded message, the encrypted message, chancellor on the brink of bailout for banks. Sacred symbols, because that's the essence of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin symbol, which the logo, the B, which went through its own evolution. when Satoshi first proposed a Bitcoin logo, it was like a BC in like a little gold coin. It's like a little skeuomorph, this little icon, and so it went through its own evolution. And there's other things as well that early Bitcoin mythology is tied to, because essentially what you have with Bitcoin is it recalls the essential mystery of all creation. I know it's a pretty deep thing to say, but really artistically, when you look at some of the most enigmatic works of art, they're to do with that creation myth. What's the most famous work of art ever in the Western world? It's the creation of Adam by Michelangelo, or something like that. Or all the mystery in the Mona Lisa's smile. There's this enigma that runs through all great artworks, and that's the same enigma that's tied to the origins of Bitcoin. And I talk a little bit about in the book, this whole myth of the origin story. And
yeah, because I mean, it was very critical that Satoshi disappeared, right, for Bitcoin to work and to become truly decentralized. But some people have also argued, I think very convincingly, that it also almost started like a mystery cult or a religion, like the sort of the discipline. Do you think like that enigma that you sort of mentioned tied to art, it was also very important to Bitcoin itself?
Yeah, in a word.
Because that keeps people fascinated with it, or gives it that sort of authenticity that it needs to be accepted?
I think what it does is that it means that because it's not tied to anyone who's real, or a team, or a publicly facing organization, it doesn't have to bow to any political correctness that other coins do. And if you look at all other coins, they all are much more, how can I say, much more social.
Yeah.
They all are vying in their own way to be appreciated by the mainstream. Bitcoin doesn't need that. It doesn't need to be appreciated by anyone. It doesn't need to be doesn't need to ingratiate itself with political mainstream. So, and that's because it's anonymous essentially. But when you have something like Ethereum, where you have publicly facing authors, original creators, then you have this sort of you have lots of they have to be very careful about what they say. They have to be very careful what they do with their coins. Suddenly it creates this huge political pressure that Bitcoin doesn't have. And it's interesting that that's reflected in the utility of all coins. Like I think of Ethereum as kind of like the what is the best American Express card? Is it the black card? I think. Anyway, like a really elite American Express card. That's how I think of Ethereum. It allows access to the digital art world. The digital art world is tied to the legacy art world.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
So it's this. I'm not going to say it's like this elitist banker coin, but it has that kind of correctness about it.
When you look at the Ethereum Foundation, it does kind of look like elitist club.
Okay.
Like, yeah, who knows who, right? I mean, all the big companies are in there backing it. But
yeah,
yeah.
There's all sorts of backdoors to that. Ethereum has to legacy, and it's super interesting like that. And then you got Tezos, which is the other place where people like to mint art. And same again. So Bitcoin has this sort of anti-authoritarianism because it has this ultimate anonymity. And that's all part of its mythology. That's all part of its lore, its mythology, its power.
And you try to sort of capture those symbols and formulate them in the art that you create. formalize it, the language?
A little bit. So the banknote is a place where you can celebrate something, where you can declare something, because a banknote is a declaration of value. It's a declaration of jurisdiction. It's a declaration of identity in a way. And not much art does that. When we talk about art, we're really talking about something that is quite poetic and offers a lot of space for the viewer to put their own interpretation on. But the thing about a banknote is that it declares. It's almost like propaganda. And to put Bitcoin in a banknote world is to celebrate it in a way and to kind of elevate it up, to build it up. So that's the kind of the motivation that I have, to kind of elevate this brand, or to celebrate it in a way.
And you, of course, you were also at multiple Bitcoin conferences. So how do they react to you? Because I imagine there's a lot of maxis there. I haven't been to a conference in America yet.
Okay.
I would love to go there to Nashville next year.
Yeah.
But I imagine, like, because you're doing NFTs, so NFTs are, you have different chains, of course. I imagine that you use Ethereum and Tezos, but maybe also others. And you're using banknotes to sort of express Bitcoin. So how do they react to these sort of different mediums and the crossover of Bitcoin on these different chains and
Well, the last conference that I was involved in was the thing that's just finished, which is Bitcoin Miami, the Bitcoin conference. And yeah, so that was in May. As far as I know, pretty much everything's sold.
Nice.
And yeah, the feedback that I got was really good, but I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know how they react to me. But I know that people reacted well to my art. Yeah, I got a lot of nice feedback, and I mean, I've been to Miami before. I just didn't go to the conference this year. I kind of double booked. But have you been to Miami?
I haven't been to. I have been to New York and to Las Vegas. Those two quite opposite places. Miami is still on the list to go. Yeah, many places in America, actually.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah,
special place.
yeah. I heard a lot of stuff about Miami. It's definitely high on the list, and I love this piece of art that is right here. I know. I know there's a lot of play within the sort of crypto NFT space with its imagery. You also have this image of we're starving millionaires. It kind of reminds me of that one too. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yes, this design is based on an African banknote, and in African banknote history, which is kind of specific, but African banknote history is really interesting because a lot of it was printed by France, the printer in France. So it has this kind of colonial French feel to a lot of banknotes over there, or it used to, not anymore. And the French banknotes are printed on this really nice thin paper, and they have really colorful portraits, and they have this like really specific style. And so I took one of those designs and I put my own spin on it with this meme from what's the film? I forget.
Yeah, I think Tom Hanks is it, right? With the oil, like a tanker that sort of gets hijacked by Somali pirates, I think it is.
Yeah. So that design that I made was around the time that the first, was it Silvergate, or like some banks were failing?
Yeah, the first one was Silvergate.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was around that time, and I kind of had this idea of this meme of the pirates had taken over the banking ship, and that is kind of like Bitcoin, really. It's a pirate currency So yeah, that was my idea behind that, and it all kind of like fitted together. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that, you know, the banking collapse was in a way a good thing, because it sort of makes people aware that they have to be their own bank. I mean, it was already sort of apparent within crypto as exchanges started to fail earlier, and people noticed, like, you know, you can lose your money on an exchange, so you have to be your own bank. But, you know, if actual banks start to fail, you know, that message comes across a lot clearer. So yeah, you also said something in one of your other videos that you want to do life-affirming art, you know, like a transcending life-affirming art. What did you mean by that statement?
Most recent video, I think I said something like,
I'll get the quote.
the world will need life-affirming art.
Yeah.
I was talking about, I think I was talking about the future of art, and that's kind of a large conversation. The thing I find about crypto art is because it's digitally based mostly, and because there's a lot of artists who are, I would say, self-taught, haven't gone through the art school system, crypto art has this very specific vibe to it, which is playful, but also is very visual. And that is very different from the art world, what we call the institution of art. And there's a lot of reasons for that, which is a whole conversation. There isn't so many conceptual art pieces in the digital art realm because it's difficult to be conceptual with screen-based art. And it's difficult to communicate an idea and celebrate an idea and elevate a brand or an idea with conceptual art. Because conceptual art has this ideology behind it, which rejects meaning, rejects symbols, rejects the idea of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And what we find with digital art, crypto art, is that there is kind of that honors the idea of truth, and that hasn't existed in the art world for a while. So, like, that has been pushed out of art for a long time. So these artists making this interesting art, and at the core of it all, if you reject meaning, then it's almost like you're anti-human, because the things that human beings do best is that we generate meaning, even if there's no meaning to life, even if we're in this, you know, dead universe and there is no meaning to it all. The amazing thing about being human is that we can generate our own meaning. We can say, okay, there is no meaning, let's generate some. So when you make meaningful art, it's a humanistic endeavor. And conversely, if you make art that rejects the idea of meaning, a lot of conceptual art and gallery does this stuff that's confusing, that's shocking, that appropriates all different types of symbols and sort of doesn't really make sense. A lot of art is like that in galleries. Then at the core of it is an ideology that is anti-human, in a way, right? So life-affirming art, I find more life-affirming art on the blockchain than I do in the galleries, because it comes with this honoring or honoring the visual, honoring things that are nice to look at. And what I'm saying is, like, really simple. It's sort of basic. Like, we take it for granted, like, oh, this art is like nice to look at. Actually, that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that idea is sort of been downgraded and demoted. The idea that art can look nice. That idea has been
Devalued.
yeah, Exactly. That idea has been demolished in the last few years with the institution of art. So crypto art, if we look into the future, has this potential to rejuvenate our culture. And it is in the process of rejuvenating our culture with this renewed humanism, this new respect for meaning. And that would be a very significant change in the history of art and the future of art. But it would also be a very significant change in culture. And you can see the turn coming. Like, I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but
Oh no, I love it. I mean this also ties into what you earlier said about symbolism, right? Because the symbolism, we have sort of gone away from symbolism because it has to do with the figurative and the image itself, and we have become more and more conceptualized in art, and it becomes sort of ethereal almost, that it becomes incomprehensible to most people. I sometimes make the joke, when you're like in a modern museum, that you might mistake the exit for an artwork or vice versa, right? So, but the point is that you often have no idea what you're looking at, and I think I totally agree with what you say. But do you also think that there's a direct link between Bitcoin on the one hand, which sort of represents crypto art and this vibrance and life-affirming transcendence, and fiat money system, which sort of almost takes the life out of art?
okay, so there's a number of things to talk about there. The really cool thing about banknotes is because they're so artistic and and I said this before, but I'll say it again as it leads into what you're talking about. So the idea of banknotes is they have to look pretty.
Yeah.
They have to be artistic. They have to be rigorously designed and printed and very detailed. And it says a lot about what we as humans need something to look like in order to respect it and to imbue it with value. Thinking about banknotes as like this thing that is imposed on us. Well, it is in one respect, and it is a limit on life that is imposed on us on one respect. But it takes two to tango, right? We have to accept this as a tool, money as a tool, and if it was that repugnant to us, if it was that, if fiat money was so disgusting, then we simply wouldn't use it. We're not helpless children. There is a reason why we consider fiat money to be of value. Okay, so if we just go with that idea and we look at the idea that the idea of fiat money, of lending money out at interest, it's totally unsustainable. But what it is physically, in reality, artistically, is actually something quite humanistic and honorable because it's celebrating something. I'm surrounded by banknotes, right? So I've got this is Yugoslavian currency.
Oh, you got some Dutch currency there?
Somewhere. I've got banknotes. I'm a banknote guy, right? So this is Yugoslavian currency.
Nice. Wait, I'll make you a little bit bigger.
We got Tesla. Yeah. Tesla's was one of the greatest scientific minds who ever lived.
Amen.
He is on currency that was printed into oblivion. So Yugoslavia is an example of a great example of hyperinflation, of recent hyperinflation. There's two things going on. There's the dysfunction, the essential dysfunction of the fiat money idea, which tends towards decay, which tends towards dysfunction, which tends towards destruction. But in order for it to be trusted, it rides upon the genius of humanity, almost like a parasite. That's I don't like using that analogy, but the things that are presented on banknotes are quite honorable. Tesla, genius, human genius, the best and brightest of human history. So you've got two things going on here with money. Bank.
So basically, you're saying banknotes and money in general, coinage, it has to be aesthetically pleasing. So it has to speak to our senses, to attract us, and to keep its value, and also to authority. Authority figures like Tesla, but also all these famous people that have lived or have been founding fathers in America. They have to sort of give it a sense of meaning and authority. Otherwise, people wouldn't accept it. But it abuses that trust.
Yeah. So, but that says everything about what we expect something to look like, that we need to be valuable. That's true. That it actually says something quite life-affirming and positive about us as a race, as a species.
Do you know any, because you're the specialist here, do you know any country or banknotes that look totally ugly and that that people don't want to have because of that?
Oh yeah, I mean, for sure, throughout history, there's been money that's been issued that people have rejected because it didn't look serious enough.
Wow.
I think there was, I'm just thinking like in recent times, there was, I don't have an example of it with me. I think there was like some Hong Kong banknote that was released and it just wasn't used because it didn't look like money. It didn't look serious. It wasn't, the public rejected it.
Wow.
And there's other stuff as well, like just trying to think. So for instance, the Morgan silver dollar, I think at the time it's a coin that was issued in America in the 19th century, and it was considered too big, too heavy to use. And so they were used, but a lot of them just sat in vaults. They're beautiful coins, one of the most beautiful coins that's ever been made. But yeah, exactly. I mean, like, it is very psychological, this stuff.
And the reverse, of course, also true, because I think the reverse would be, exemplified in gold itself, right? Because it's shiny, it looks amazing. You can make all kinds of ornaments and figures out of it. So I think a part of, what attracts people in gold, besides, of course, being a store of value and a lot of other interesting properties, is that it's shiny and it looks amazing.
Yeah, humans like stuff, respect stuff that is heavy, tangible, weighty, has authority. Because that's the kind of, if you want to be really deep, it's because that's the kind of authority that we aspire to.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. But whereas with all this is that I'm not sure how much you want to talk about this, but there was the recent controversy with, or it's ongoing controversies with woke companies.
Oh yeah.
Well, I find this trend really fascinating because it exposes an ideology that's actually been present in the art world for a long time. The reason this stuff gets rejected by the public is because there is a disrespect for symbolism. The most recent one is the stuff that's happening with Target. I won't go into details. I don't want to get you cancelled. But this stuff all happens because there is this agnostic view towards very powerful symbols. And so I find like there are two cultures that we have right now. There is a culture that is disrespectful towards symbolism. And there's a culture that really respects symbolism. And you can also break those two cultures down into a humanistic culture and a more, say, anti-human culture. And the chaos in our world is due to a conflict between those two ideologies. One that honors human life, one that does not honor human life. So we can get really, really deep into this. It's a huge topic. But what I'm talking about here is not just like pretty pictures on pieces of paper. This is kind of the future, the direction of the human race. It's a big thing, and this future is being decided right now as we decide what is the value of a symbol. You know, what things do we respect? What things do we not respect? You know, where is the line drawn? We are in the process of working this out now. So when I, you know, banknote nerd, like, you know, showing Tesla on my Yugoslavian banknotes, it's much more than just pretty pictures on paper. This is totally relevant to what's happening right now in our culture. We are working this out for ourselves. We are trying to resolve this this unresolved thing that we've had, our relationship between the symbols that we choose to honor.
So you could say one ideology is broke or bankrupt and in the process of becoming anti-human, or already is, and the other one is trying to get out from underneath it and to start reaffirming life again. So do you think the sort of the bankrupt ideology has the potential to win out if we're not careful?
So I will say this: if you have an ideology that at its core doesn't honor human life, then by definition it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And if you have an ideology that is honoring human life, then by definition it can run for hundreds of thousands of years. So which one would I pick?
Oh, but then, you know, we have to throw in the mix AI, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So does that rebalances the skills, or?
Well, AI is ultimately programmed by humans, so it's going to express whatever humanity the programmers have. The thing that's happening right now is that the ideology that perhaps doesn't honor human life is a lot of those people who would choose that side. They're really scared of freedom. They're really scared of the idea of they need rules. They need rules, and that's fine. Like, I'm not telling anyone how to live their life, but the whole World Economic Forum idea, the sales pitch there, is that it's a Garden of Eden sales pitch.
Yeah.
So own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll basically be Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You can't go anywhere else except the garden. You'll own nothing. You'll be naked except for a few leaves.
And you can't eat apples.
Can't eat apples. You can only eat you know, it's the father figure, basically. It's us and the father figure. That's the whole sales pitch with the World Economic Forum and CBDCs as well.
Mm-hmm.
It says, well, if you like cryptocurrency, then you'll love our CBDC. But essentially, it's the same thing. It's the Garden of Eden sales pitch with the father figure, the central bank, and a lot of humanity will go for that because they need that. They need to be in the Garden of Eden like a farm animal. They need that life. Being free to them, being self-determining, being your own bank is very, very scary to those people. And then the other half of humanity wants to be free. So which one is more sustainable? It's the one that is more about self-determination. The problem that we have, unfortunately, is that our world has been built on the idea of giving away our self-responsibility. Going back to your question about what do I think represents, you know, what does Bitcoin mean to me? Bitcoin is like the first clue that we as a species want to be self-determining. It's not the destination, but it's the first step onto a decentralized monetary system, which is huge. And eventually it will be decentralized everything in a world where everyone is fully self-responsible. But as I say, the problem with that is that so much of our world has been built on the idea of someone else doing it for us. if you look at how the school system developed, that's a whole other conversation. The restaurant industry, farming, everything is built on someone else will sort it out for me, convenient. And so, unfortunately, we're going to have to remake the world from scratch in order to be self-responsible. That's my, hot take. Not many people want to hear that, but
no, I actually agree with it, and then I think it's actually also very hopeful, right? That we can that Bitcoin represents that, and that there are so many people in Bitcoin and feel that same calling. And I think, what you said earlier also, that the banknote has to be pleasing and it has to have substance to it. I think one of the funny things with money, fiat money, is that people chase it, right? You for example, in rap videos, but you got this whole culture built around fiat money to sort of elevate it, and people are chasing it into oblivion. Like what you say, they're giving away their freedom by chasing, by they're chasing it like a carrot on a stick almost. I think I lost you there. Yeah, if you can hear me, you can drop out and sign back in, because I think your connection just fell away. So as I'm trying to get Tom Badley back, I'm not sure if I can. I hope I can. I'm gonna send him a message right now. I'm not sure if he will get it. We'll see. So I'll show the website again. If you haven't followed Tom Badley, go follow him. He has amazing stuff. He has a book, Art and Money. There you go. Welcome back. That was the connection. Well, I guess we should round it up. But did you want to comment on my last remark, or?
I didn't hear it as I dropped out. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was sort of saying that, as you said, banknotes are very pleasing to look at. They're very, they have like substance to it and authority, and it's almost like, and they're elevated in popular culture and in culture in general, that people are almost sort of chasing the money and chasing it into oblivion, right? They're sort of throwing away their freedom in the chase after it.
Yeah, I mean, there's never enough, and yet it can be printed at will. So that tells you everything about the system that it is. There's never enough, and yet it can be printed at will. So yeah, I mean, like, I'd be the first to say that it's a flawed system. But we'll figure it out. We will figure it out.
And on that positive note, I want to thank you for doing this interview with me. Yeah, go on.
So I just finished a book where I go super deep into everything that we talked about, not just the aesthetics of banknotes, but art, culture, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, and it really compiles all the learnings that I've had from the last, I don't know, 2 decades. So there's stuff about art in there. There's stuff about current events, culture, and also stuff about cryptocurrency as well. So it's built from all my learnings in those different worlds. There is a pre-sale. You can. Best thing to do is to get in touch with me on Twitter, and I'm Currency Design. One word, Currency Design on Twitter, and register your interest, because the pre-sale will run and then I'll rise the price. So to get in on the pre-sale, then just get in touch with me and I'll put you on the whitelist, as they say. Nice.
And that's amazing stuff. I mean, your artwork is really nice, and I can imagine that your book is full of interesting insights. I would love to read it too, so maybe I'm gonna list too. But even if they don't want the book, just follow Currency Design and start following this amazing artist and explore his ideas with him. Tom, I want to thank you again for being on the show. I love the conversation. I think we touched upon so many different things, each of which could fill another program. So if you ever want to come back on, you're welcome to. And in the meantime, I wish you success with the book and also with your art. And I hope to see you in Nashville next year.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And yeah, Nashville will be awesome. Let's see where the world is at.